All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of The Neighborhood Watch, episode 18, where we cover the classic movie Creature from the Black Lagoon.
1954's.
Yes. And we are very excited, my co-host, Dr. K, over there.
Yes, thank you.
And me, Peter, welcome a special guest today, which I'm looking at my notes now, and I think he was Chico, the boat captain in Creature from the Black Lagoon. Was that who you were?
See.
Yes, I knew it. So he's going to bring all kinds of insight into this conversation tonight.
Yes.
Because you were there.
Yes.
You were
Yes.
captaining the boat. So
I was in the theater watching it.
and this guy here is MARECH,
Yes.
Yes, the one and only.
the one and only, who is actually my father.
Dun, dun.
It's impossible.
I'll never join you.
So we're very glad.
Hello,
that
everyone.
We're very glad
Thanks,
that
Mark.
he is
Thanks,
here. He had to make a big trip across the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we
All the way.
We loaded the car.
We're talking
up.
hundreds of feet to get
Yes.
Yeah,
hundreds
we're
of
actually
feet.
neighbors with.
Dr. K.
here. With Dr. K.
K.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true. We're
Yeah.
within a throwing...
Right.
Hence the neighborhood watch.
That's right.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's
you
right.
get it.
Yeah, oh,
So,
yeah.
And we were really excited. So we as you know, we do horror movies here. We talk about horror movies, and this guy over here next to me, he doesn't. I mean, you like horror movies, but
Yeah.
you're not a huge
Yeah.
horror aficionado.
No, they scared me too much growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and still now too.
Yeah. A little bit.
But when I discovered talking with you one day that Creature from the Black Lagoon was one of your favorite movies of all time,
Yeah.
which you had never
seriously.
told me before.
Yeah, but you, as any other child, just don't
Yeah.
listen.
Oh, well, that's true too.
So, yeah, I mean, I I was born in 55. Creature from the Black Lagoon came out in 54, but it was still playing in theaters quite a bit. I mean, that was a time when you could go to the matinee for 25 cents
Mhm.
on a Saturday and literally spend the whole day there until,
Right.
early evening when the regular features started. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I saw that theater, the drive-in.
That was your babysitter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that and one of the waitresses at
Oh.
my parents' restaurant.
Okay.
We'll never go into.
All right.
And that
Please
was when
don't.
that's when I was 16. So, but anyway, yeah. Aside from that,
See, now you know why I like horror movies so
Yeah.
much. everyone. No.
but no, I mean, I think aside from that, to see that still this many years, how long has it been? 60, almost 70.
Mhm.
Well, 60 plus years later, still have that effect in culture. And you see the beginnings, I think, in the influence of a lot of other horror movies and a lot of,
Definitely.
I mean, we were talking about that the other night when we watched it. I mean, some of the things you can see out of there, this kind of panache and cheese, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You see that with Spielberg and some of his,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
what
Definitely.
he injects into the movies and that type of
Absolutely.
thing.
Yep.
So yeah, so it's going to be fun to talk about.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, it's hugely influential. And when was the last time you saw it, Dr. K?
Man, ages.
Yeah.
A long time. Probably, I think I went through and watched all of the remasters, but not even the most recent one, like when it was the 90s version of the Universal remastered box set on VHS kind of thing.
So
So
you were there.
probably 20-something years, 25 years maybe?
So you
a long time.
You saw the premiere of that making of documentary that we watched then. So you were probably watching.
Oh,
you were
do
probably
know what?
watching
I
it
don't
when they
actually. I don't remember that, but when we watched that,
it was so 90s.
oh man, yeah, it took me back to that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that must have just been at the end of the tape. I don't actually remember watching that, but yeah, because all of that stuff was from 2000, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And it
yeah.
was like totally, woo, oh
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Or maybe I guess maybe that would have been it. Maybe around 2000. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
probably when this version came out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
long time.
But coming from a prior generation, I mean, I'm intrigued what appeals to you about that movie.
Oh yeah,
Well,
sure.
yeah, there's I mean, so you mentioned this too when we were watching it, how you had seen it late night.
Right.
And I think that was the first time I had seen it too, was
Yeah.
like a late night, up all night Up All Night. Remember on the USA Network?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Up All
you had
Night.
the Up All Night with
Absolutely.
Gilbert Gottfried.
Yep.
I think I feel like that's probably the first time I saw it. So
Yep.
it's got all these kind of memories of like being up too late and watching something that it's kind of scary and maybe I'm too young for this and all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
so,
definitely.
So it has that kind of danger. Even all these years later, it still has that kind of danger element. Like, oh, what is this? And, so I mean, I think for me, that's the huge appeal. Still, it's still nostalgia. It's nostalgia for you, but it's nostalgia for us too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then once you start watching it, then you realize like, wow, this is still it still holds up. This is still like a really well-made movie.
All that underwater stuff. The camera work is fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean they were really, and we visited about that before, but I think it was Universal's real kind of foray into the monster movie, creature flick, and although I think at the time it was considered low budget, you had a lot of the studio actors and contract actors that, just got tossed in there, but the cinematography is still
it's great.
amazing.
It's great.
And the black and white we were talking,
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it's beautiful. And the suit too, the creature itself just
man.
looks amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like so much.
The
detail.
one thing you would think wouldn't hold up,
Yeah.
right, is one of the coolest parts about it.
Yeah.
Is that suit is pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
The detail in it. Oh, whew, when he's breathing, particularly that shot of him breathing. When he's walking around and his
gills are going.
killer.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I remember seeing this thing. I must have been first time. I think maybe 7 or 8 years old, and that whole scene where the creature's breathing.
Yep.
Just terrified me.
Yeah.
Because it looks like he's drowning.
Oh, sure.
He's out in air, but he's like
he's
breathing
a fish
air,
out of
but-
water.
Yeah, but he's like a fish out of water.
Yep.
But it looks like he's drowning, but then it's kind of a horrific, facial expression, and that's just like.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that just bugged me out when I was like 8, and so now to see that today, it's obviously not frightening, but you see something that you don't see in many movies today that was common back then, and that was the building of suspense.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Just like that first kind of scene where you realize there's a monster and the hand comes out,
Yep.
and it's just this claw kind of dragging across the shore, and that's all it is. And so that building of suspense was, I don't know, it still works.
Yeah, well, we caught onto that too, Dr. K and I. Because I remember both of us were just like, "Oh man, they're just giving us what we want right away, though, too."
Right.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like it's not that standard thing that happened in a lot of movies, in between.
Like say like Planet of the Apes. Or...
Yeah, where well, I mean, Planet of the Apes is great though too.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to trash talk
digress.
that, but there's not that whole mystery of like, is there a creature, is there not a creature, is it all in their heads, it's very clearly is like, yes, here's the creature, there's his hand,
Show the creature.
Even though they're not showing everything,
Right.
But it was kind of self-evident with the title too.
Right.
And probably all the posters and stuff too, but still they're like, they're giving you a little appetizer at least, but you're right, it's totally a building up of suspense. It's a slow burn until you get to him.
Yep. Because there's so many times where you can make the mistake of showing your monster and it sucks, right? And it's a piece of crap and it's laughable, which this doesn't suffer from. But then there's what I think became later after this, particularly in the like 60s with like Roger Corman films, where it's this whole idea of like, we don't have very much money to make a believable monster, so we're just not going to show it.
Yeah.
Or we're going to do everything we can to not show you the monster, and that sucks too.
Yeah.
That's
Unless
where
you're
like,
Jaws.
oh, come on, right?
Yeah.
And you get everything from what people. There's dialogue about what people are afraid of and this thing, and they're trying to build myth and stuff into the film without showing the monster, because we can't show the monster because our monster sucks. And then you finally see it, or you don't. Some movies you don't even really ever get to see it, or you do see it and you're like, oh, lame, man.
Yeah, like sadly to say, it seems like almost every Godzilla movie is like that. They just keep talking about Godzilla forever. And then maybe he looks good, but they still only show him for like 20 minutes of the movie.
Right.
But I think that was, I've got a couple friends that are indie filmmakers, and one of them mentioned to me, we were talking about the very same topic.
Yeah.
And he said, I think the difference is, he said, today in movies, you get the whole chicken right away.
Yeah.
Then in movies, they started with the feather.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. It's a tease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just like Julia Adams in her bathing suit there. I mean, she's she's gorgeous. I mean, like honestly, like she's gorgeous, but she's
Right.
it's not like she's showing everything.
It's still the feather.
yeah,
Right.
She's not
It's
showing.
still-
Yeah.
But
yeah.
she it's
Yeah.
just it's very tastefully,
Yeah.
until you hear
Yeah.
in the making of thing where the guy
Don't
sees her
even-
swimming and then he's like, could be naked.
Yeah,
And-
the commentary.
That
yeah,
guy, man.
the commentary on that. The
I don't even know
feature
if
in
we
the
should
disc.
speak that
Yeah.
guy's name, but
Yeah, but the commentary on
Yeah.
the DVD was just
Goodness.
that's
Yeah, it's
like,
pretty fun.
It's so ridiculous.
yeah. Besides the fact that it instantly warped you back to 1999,
Yeah.
like
Right.
if in your mind,
Leonard Maltin.
sometimes when you have like a horrible flavor of something or you smell like something burnt and it never leaves your mind, that's like, quick, look, it's 1999, and you're like, ah, oh,
Yeah.
and then this jerk comes out, this film critic, and he's got like every which way to tell you about how sexually exploitive this movie was
yeah,
by
right.
all of the things that are buried in it
yeah.
and that are buried in the subconscious of your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
I
we
think-
were all just like rolling
No,
over in laughter.
No,
Yeah.
we just put a big thumbs down on that. We're like, no.
But if you get the chance, people watch it and die of laughter,
Yeah.
just like we did.
Right.
Well, and let's talk about that for a second. From my perspective, is that
Please.
it's so ridiculous today that anything that's kind of in that elite or highbrow art there's always these hidden meanings and Easter eggs and everything like
yeah.
that, which there are some in some movies like that. But let's go back to that era. They were just fun movies.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
These
Exactly
movies were
right.
shown in the matinees. They were
Yeah.
shown in the drive-ins. They were not expected to be big blockbusters.
Yeah.
They were well done because people were proud of their craft.
Yep.
And they made just a good, fun movie
Yeah.
that was scary, that was suspenseful.
Right.
There was
Adventure.
no real social commentary.
No, man, and this wasn't an exploitation movie
Yeah,
either.
it
You
was
can
just-
pick
it was
the
fun.
exploitation
Yeah.
movies, and you can put a finger on, like,
Right.
What
here's
they're
what
talking about.
they're trying to talk about. But that wasn't this film at all.
Right.
Right. I mean, this was a good, and it really was the last of the Universal monster movies.
Yeah.
And they did such a good job with it.
For sure.
You don't need all that freaking baggage, man.
Yeah,
but
I mean-
there's guys who work at a university and they need to be able to pay to get talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Paid to
I
talk
mean,
about whatever
it was.
drivel.
I think what we were talking about the other night. It was the Pulp Fiction
Yeah.
And that's what
opposite in the
yeah.
film era. In
Yeah.
that
Right.
film era, it was the Pulp Fiction of film era.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's what we love about
That's right.
about Pulp Fiction is that it is what it says it is.
That's right.
The creature from the
Exactly.
Black Lagoon is about a creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
dude,
no,
that's brilliantly put, Peter. Actually, yeah.
thank you, but there's
Yes.
there's
Yep.
there's nothing other than that. And like every single look at every pulp story.
Yeah.
All the great ones: Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith, H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes.
They're
They
just
were-
great stories.
Yeah,
Oh,
they were
right.
writing stories that were just it was all story.
Yeah.
It wasn't that,
Yeah.
that's it. And that's why we love them.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's maybe why they stand the test of time in
Yeah.
some respects. I think.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just another thing that really stood out to us watching this movie as well was the music. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How it was,
Especially finding out how it was done with three guys, right?
Three
Three
different
composers.
composers.
That's unheard of these
Strange.
days. Like,
Yeah.
no one would. You wouldn't be able to hire anybody worth their salt to say, "Hey, you've got to collaborate with two other guys." They'd be like, "No."
Right.
But talking about, with Merc talking about the studio system back then, right? That kind of sounds like what
Yep.
it was. They were like, "Hey, look, we just
Yeah.
you're under contract, do it." And,
That was a great way to do it. Look at how many movies just got pushed out there. I mean, like
Yeah,
I said,
sure,
it was
sure,
pulp.
sure.
It was
Yep. Yep.
films Pulp Fiction.
Yep.
And you had a lot of the writers, a lot of the composers,
Yep.
a lot of the actors that kind of showed their skills and honed their skills in this kind of pool
Yeah.
and were brought up. I mean, some of those actors
Totally.
went on to star in films with Cary Grant, and I mean, they became kind of supporting actor icons.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so in the same equivalent happened with literature in Pulp Fiction. You had your writers like Ray Bradbury and
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, yes.
those greats
sure.
come out of that where
Absolutely.
they had honed
Yeah.
their skills
Yep.
and experimented and
Yeah, it's the
and got to-
battleground,
yeah,
right? You had
it's
an
the
opportunity
battleground.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's interesting how that's changed now, right? Like anybody can publish anything.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably more difficult now finding an audience to actually even look at what you've done. Whereas back then it's like, I start at the bottom here at Pulp and I work my way up, and now it's like I publish online.
Yeah, now everything is saturated.
And, super saturated. Yeah, well, everyone wants to be an artist, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean that you're any good.
Right.
That's true.
Sorry.
But it still weeds itself out. I mean,
it does. Absolutely.
I'm glad to see how easy it is to see, or easy to say, get your music out there, or get your art out there, or get your literature.
No,
out
that's
there,
great.
Or
that's
independent
great,
film.
yeah.
I think that's fantastic. That
absolutely.
it's gotten cheaper to make and easier. And it still applies that it's weeded out. I think the problem that everybody runs into in some respects is now there's so much content.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
That you can't. You don't even know where to begin.
Right.
Well,
even with the weeding process, what's good, what's you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You got word of mouth, you got social media and whatnot, but now you've got 7 billion critics.
Oh yeah.
Oh, totally.
For sure.
Critics are the worst too, right? I mean, that's the hardest part. I think is for every person who's wanting to make it as an artist, there are 20 people wanting to make it as a critic.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to have an opinion.
Yep.
And
it is easier to destroy than it is to create.
Yes.
As Antonio Banderas told us.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, everything is so niche now too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that too. But do you think that helps? Like, maybe it's easy if you can like find a pool of people that you're going to try to appeal within a group, or
I feel like it's a double-edged thing, right?
Yeah,
because in the end, then you know I use Instagram a lot, right?
Yes,
and I make a lot of different artworks and stuff, and I notice that after a while, you start to see like what groups you appeal to, what groups kind of get what you're doing,
right?
And then if you're not careful though, you kind of get trapped in that pool of people too. And then it's almost it's almost like you're just creating stuff that this audience will like. Yeah. And you're never really getting out of that,
Right.
But
you're the hometown band that does really good in front of your hometown, but not. You don't ever go on the road and you don't ever play anywhere.
Or even just like content-wise too, like let's say you play classical music and then and now there's no way you're ever gonna try to do anything different, like a reggae song or something like that. Which I think everybody should try everything.
That's right.
So
I mean, we digress here, but.
That's the nature of this show.
But
that's what we do.
But isn't that all part of the weeding out process? Because I don't know how many pulp writers you had during that era, or even even movies.
Right, all the ones that people forget about. Right, I mean that's the thing. Yeah,
forgotten and for good cause.
Sure.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, I wish. Why not?
Excuse me. Battlefield Earth.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Hey, that made my top 5 worst movies ever made.
Great soundtrack.
Did you know that?
Great soundtrack.
Yeah. John Revolte, it is absolute worst.
Yeah.
But I mean, that happens, today. I mean, how many of those people were forgotten? And same, likewise today. How many podcasts, how many indie movies that are just tank? But then those
not
that
everybody
start to
can be as lucky as the Neighborhood Watch and have
That's true.
And have dozens of fans.
That's
and
right,
neighbors.
dozens and dozens. Thank you,
and
fans.
Neighbors,
but back to the movie. Going back to the movie.
Yes.
What? Because you're more connected to this generation, the current generation,
The millennials.
Unfortunately.
No.
Horror! The horror!
Whatever you call yourself nowadays.
But
we're Gen X,
we're
Mark.
Gen
Come on
X,
now.
Gen
We're
X.
Gen X.
Gen X.
But we can help you.
This sounds like a cleaner to me, though.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah.
But
it's a kind of a drug.
We scrub the floor of the millennials.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's about true.
Well, what did you see? I mean, in the movies from the 80s and 90s, what kind of influences did you see on them from, say, this movie?
Oh, yeah, right.
That's a huge question.
Well, so I would immediately say the importance of monster movies.
Yeah.
So there is a definite monster movies exist within the bigger thing that is horror, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we can say that.
So it's like a subgenre.
Yeah, sure, but and one of the bigger ones too,
Right.
definitely. I think monster movie because Jaws is a monster movie, right?
Yep.
He's not Frankenstein, but without a doubt, it's a monster.
Yep.
And that's the thing that everyone wants to get away with and destroy, right?
Yeah.
Very simple. That's pretty much every monster movie. Either it destroys you or you destroy it, and it's the big bad thing.
And it's
so I
chasing
think
you.
that the 80s in particular was able to cash in and bring back these kind of like staple monsters, but they were totally different and whatever the evolution of monsters, right? So Leatherface, Pinhead, Chucky,
Michael
Myers, Jason Voorhees,
Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah.
But I think the 80s really did want to get back to like, hey, now we're doing really good horror now. Who are our guys? You know? Because they weren't Dracula and they weren't Frankenstein and they weren't Wolfman. But I think we got a really cool proliferation right then. And that, I think, is directly from this universal idea of your franchises are built around your villain, right?
Yeah.
Because Hammer tried to do it the other way and, like, build it around the character of Van Helsing. And, I mean, Hammer films are great, but it wasn't the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a really good comparison, but
No, I think that's true.
that is. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
but
true.
you know what I mean, right? Like,
I mean, monsters are sexy. Let's get right
Oh,
down to
man,
it. You know what I
really.
mean? They're
Really,
the big
really,
stars.
really.
But don't you think? I mean, we were talking about this too. Don't you think that part of that is that they really, really, and you'll see this maybe from that era. It's just a real prevalence to kind of bring out this Beauty and Beast aspect.
oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
absolutely,
You know.
absolutely, yeah.
'Twas
for
beauty
archetypes,
killed the beast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you see that as much. Do you?
You mean now? Movies now?
Yeah. I mean, do you really see that?
I think they're
to say.
prevailing trends.
I mean, I don't see
which
that
are
like in
not
Freddy
that.
Krueger. I don't see that in
Um,
Halloween. I don't see that in.
Well,
Oh right. The thing with the
Yeah.
franchises
Right.
is they have to perpetuate like their own mythos now.
Right.
So in the beginning, yes, but then definitely not once you've hit 10 and 13 and 15 movies. Absolutely not.
Right.
Then you're kind of like you're feeding into this whatever.
Right, but I mean, you
whatever
saw
the-
that. You saw that. I think, and I don't want to be one of these, older generation that are going, "Oh, back in the day,"
Yeah.
because there's a lot of absolutely stellar movies today.
Oh,
man.
sure.
And
No,
TV
no,
without
two,
question.
no two ways about it. But
Without-
I'm talking
and,
about,
and TV is now
you were
legitimate,
coming into Hollywood's golden era.
Yep.
And people were professional. They were really trying to perfect their craft, trying to really, even if it was a monster movie, produce it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, the storylines, though, you see that with King Kong. You see that with the, Swamp Thing. You see this
Yes.
with the creature.
Yep.
And Frankenstein. And,
Definitely.
it just goes on and on.
All of the Frankenstein
I don't
movies, yeah.
I don't know that like in the 80s.
Yep.
I look at, in some respects, the 80s as having some nuggets or gems hidden here or there. But as a whole, I think the movies from, I'd say, most of the movie. I mean, of course, you've got record-breaking movies like Star Wars and those things.
Oh,
like,
sure.
that came out obviously.
Yeah.
But you had a deluge of crap movies. I mean,
Oh,
really
sure.
crap
Yeah.
movies.
No doubt. Yeah, no
You
doubt.
know,
For
and
sure.
and it's like they had the technology had improved to that
Yep.
point. And so let's not go with story, let's go with
Yeah.
really, really horrific effects.
Yeah,
Well,
and for good or bad, I think
Right.
that part of what you're getting at is what horror was doing so well then was
Right.
in perfecting practical effect. We talk about this quite a lot on
Yes,
this show.
yeah.
And so, but that doesn't really do all that much for storytelling.
Yeah.
And I think the ones that Peter and I, and correct me if I'm wrong, the ones that we really like, I don't know that necessarily have mass appeal. So they're like horror fans are, they bow down to us and they say, you're right. There's From Beyond, right?
Yeah.
Most people do not know the movie From Beyond,
Yeah.
but then the people who do know the movie From Beyond
They love it.
love
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And so, but what does From Beyond bring? It brings a good story, and it brings that type of movie making to a pinnacle with practical effect. And
Right.
I'm picking one.
Yeah.
That's one. Reanimator's one. The Thing is one for
Yeah.
sure. John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it really was blood and guts stuff, right?
Yep.
And so if you're not interested in blood and guts, which is a huge majority of
which is
filmmakers,
in a sense
just
another
don't care,
right? But in a sense it's another genre.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, gore is. Gore, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, gore isn't the reason I think The Thing is the greatest horror movie of all time. It's part of it.
Right.
It's a large part of it.
Right.
But that story is fantastic.
Yeah.
And that group, that
No,
cast
you do have
and everything
you
else.
have
but
like Texas Chainsaw
and
Massacre.
there we
That's
go.
another
That,
one.
I would say
Yeah.
that's maybe the second best
Yeah.
horror
Well, I
movie
think
of
there's
all
a
time.
couple
Yeah.
things going on.
Yeah.
What getting back to Marek's point is
Yep.
there was so much crap in the 80s.
Yeah.
And part of that is just I think we have to blame VHS for that too. Because
Oh, sure.
VHS
Without a doubt, man.
was so
Without a
easy.
doubt.
All of a sudden it
That's
was
right.
like it's kind of like how the internet is for us now,
That's
right?
right.
It's
Right.
like now
Very
anybody could pick up a camera and make a movie and
Very
try
true.
to find a distributor and
Yep.
so there was just they still there's a lot of like VHS collectors out there now.
Oh, yeah.
And they still talk about how like there's so much out there still
Yeah.
that they just try to find at flea markets and stuff
Uh-huh.
because there's stuff that's just it only had one printing of VHS
No kidding.
but it's
Yeah.
just amazing cheese
Yeah.
Well, and Peter, you and I have talked about that, about what makes a good movie. What are the ingredients of a good movie?
Yeah.
And, it's 3 or 4 main ingredients, but good cinematography, a good
Yeah.
score, a good story. And the acting can be mediocre as long as those 3 other things exist.
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and really, you see that in Star Wars. Acting,
Yeah.
in the most part, is kind of mediocre, but it's awesome. The story's awesome.
Yes.
But you see that in The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
true.
You see
Yeah.
a
You're
great
right.
musical score. You see
You're right.
great cinematography.
Yep.
And you see a good story.
Yep.
But the acting is, it's
Yeah,
like
it's kinda hit or miss.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hit or miss. There's a few, there's a couple performers there that are good, but
Yeah.
for the most part, it's really, it is something. It actually looks like something Lucas would have written in the
Yeah.
sense of the dialogue.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
not
it's-
to,
There's
not
a
to-
little bit of
Yeah.
theatricality. How do
Yeah.
you say that word?
Yeah.
Theatricality. Yeah.
There we go.
Theatricals, yeah.
You
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, for sure. But I also think that the 80s almost was like, the people that saw The Creature from the Black Lagoon and loved The Creature itself.
Right.
They're like, we want to see more of
Yeah.
that. Can we
Yeah.
see
Right,
more
but
of that?
Why
Yeah.
do those? Here's a good question for both of you,
Yeah.
for you, Peter, and Dr. K.
Yes.
Why do the movies from the 80s, in most regards, and there are many movies from the 80s that are awesome, don't get me wrong on that, but why do those movies not really hold up as well in my mind, or probably in a lot of people's minds, to movies like The Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Oh.
When you say there's a lot of great movies in the 80s, do you mean like Deathstalker 1 through
Yeah,
1, 2, 3,
that's
and
awesome.
4, or
Yeah,
Deathstalker
that's
1,
my-
2,
yeah.
and 4, not 3?
4 is actually the best.
Okay, so
That's-
good.
yeah.
See,
and
then
The
we-
Sword and the Sorcerer.
Yeah, we agree on a lot of
The
things.
Sword and the Sorcerer.
One of the other ingredients that makes a movie good is to have a sword that can shoot swords out of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
Yes.
very essential
This is
ingredient.
this is the way I brought you
Yeah,
up.
I know.
So I mean, this is what's important in life.
Right.
Yeah.
So in horror was more like dessert for us.
Yeah.
But what makes that different to you than say most of those from that genre in the 80s?
Well, yeah, let me go first really quick.
Yeah, absolutely go.
Because what you're talking about are the movies that we have been doing on this podcast, I think.
Right.
Those are the ones that are standing out, like
That's
Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one.
Yep.
Friday the 13th, the first one. They're these things that are kind of like icons now.
Right.
And we're going back to the originals and they do still hold up. And
Right.
and there's something about the thing you just mentioned, From Beyond. The Exorcist isn't 80s though, is it?
Exorcist, the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a few in the 70s too.
Well,
but basically,
Yeah.
there are a lot of these movies though, and I think one of the main reasons they still hold up now is because there's no difference between the stories they're telling from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Those movies that are holding up in the 80s, those stories could be told in another decade. It's just the effects that are different. Right?
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic analysis. Yeah. At the heart of it, the story is most important.
Yeah.
So Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think one of the greatest adventure movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But the Crystal Skull is pure garbage, and the Crystal
Right,
Skull is
compared to
pure
it, yeah.
garbage not because Lucas and Spielberg and frickin' Harrison Ford worked on it, because that was all in the first one, right? But because the story was crap,
Yeah.
the story was lame.
Yeah.
So
kind
you
of-
can have
kind of
everything
good.
else right, and if you don't have your story straight,
Exactly.
it
Everything
doesn't
falls
work,
apart.
right?
Yeah.
So look at the story though from the
Yeah.
creature from the Black Lagoon. Is what elements are in that story? You've got the Beauty and the Beast
Sure,
angle.
absolutely, big time.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've got really a sense of how would you say mystery and exploration.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
With all the
exotic
Because it's
underwater
an
stuff.
exotic.
Oh,
yeah, it's exotic.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
unknown.
yeah, yeah.
You know, it's this whole
Yep.
unknown aspect of it. You also have a sense of, you know, and we joked about this earlier, but there is a very evident sense of social responsibility or environmental
Oh, sure.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
Early
you've got
too.
the,
in
yeah,
the-
you've got the one
right.
scientist that's
Yeah.
like, hey, let's
Yeah.
capture this creature, let's, you know, put him in a cage, let's kill him, let's bring him back alive,
Right.
whatever. And you've got the other scientist that is saying, no,
Yeah.
let's work with, you know, let's try to work with it. You know,
We
this
need
is
to
his
study
element.
this.
Let's,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
right.
We need to go and get a whole team of scientists to come back. And-
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting because those arguments, those discussions were very much a part of that age too.
Oh, big time.
You know.
I think it was 1955 when they finally banned the import of ivory into the U.S. It was
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
right?
It was the next year. So it was very much, you know, part of that. People forget that. But you also had this story where, you know, it's incorporating that kind of mystery and unknown, the Beauty and the Beast, like we were saying. But also the creature is really in I think coming out of that era is one of the few anti-heroes
Yeah.
in a way.
Oh, sure.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of rooting for him in a weird
Yeah, you're
way,
kind of
right?
rooting for him. I
definitely.
mean, he's killing
Definitely.
people, but he's also, yeah, but that's a creature, you know, and it's
Yeah.
that's his element. And
Yeah, yeah.
you know, the
yeah,
way
yeah.
they set that
Yeah.
up is actually pretty cool because, you know, you're not only this is a monster that's like
Yeah.
really just on a rampage killing people,
Right.
but then they're throwing this, but this is his
Yeah,
place.
That's
you know?
right. Yeah.
This is his. This is like his.
Yeah.
You know, backyard, and we're just like
Right.
squatting.
And he
there.
doesn't try to kill the girl.
Yeah.
That's
No.
the other thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's why you're really sympathetic to him because he's got time and time again. He could have killed her, right?
Right.
The whole swimming scene,
Yep.
all of that time. He could have grabbed her by the foot.
Yeah,
just
so
like
he
did
wasn't-
the other guy and just swim her down. And
He wasn't
Right.
mindless.
yeah, right, right.
You know, and
right,
so
right,
he's
right.
he's kind of like this. When you see the creature, you know, and they did this with Frankenstein. They did
Yeah.
this with, you know,
Yeah.
as an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're underdogs in a way,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
They've got everybody against them. They're getting shot full of holes, you know,
Right.
and they still keep on
Yeah.
fighting, you know, and they're
Full
just
of
like
arrows and
yeah.
holes and everything else,
yeah,
man.
and they're just
Yeah.
they don't give up, which you
Yeah.
know I think we really like seeing that in movies. We like to see
Yeah,
a character that doesn't
definitely.
give
Well,
up.
and I also
Definitely.
think it's kind of like the, you know, just a little bit of culture reference there, but it's also a part of that the American culture back then too. That's evolved into now.
Sure.
You know, it was 9 years after World War II.
Right.
You know, America was in that kind of golden era. It was the greatest
Yes.
generation that came
Yep.
back from that war.
Yep.
And so it's like, hey, you know, I forget completely. You're gonna have to edit
This
this
is
out.
exactly what I was thinking when you asked the question, what is the big difference that changed? I
Right.
think it's that. I think that was the prevailing attitude that was going on in the 80s, and which
Right.
also
underdog.
had everything to do with film. In the 50s, I said the 80s. In the 50s, that's what was going on in film too.
Right.
Not just regular everyday culture, but
Right.
film was in its golden era too.
Yep.
And in the 80s, you're seeing whatever the 80s response was, because the 80s, for there being cool stuff, it was not the golden age anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I think I see that more in animation, probably in the difference. Animation was so fantastic, and they put so much time, Warner Brothers stuff particularly, but Disney was really good then too. You see how there was like this absolute craft that they were trying to go at with film, and that was in horror movies too. Whereas in the 80s now it's 30 years later, and so now they're trying to like reinvent the storytelling part. Like what are we going to have to do different now, because this is what's going on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's it. But I think what
Yeah.
you're talking about, that post World War II 50s kind of.
That's
you know,
yeah, and that's what I was trying to make the connection is that, you know, from that culture, you know, America was the underdog
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, right,
just
right.
a few short years before that.
Sure, absolutely,
And
yeah.
so that was kind of the sense of the national psyche is that,
Yep.
you know, we identified with underdogs. And so you see that in a lot of American films, I think, especially from
Absolutely.
that time,
Yeah.
is that, you know, this playoff on the anti-hero.
Yep.
Yeah. For sure.
And the creature actually was a great anti-hero. I mean, if you think about that, they totally built this personality just out of its actions, the music.
Yeah, he doesn't have any dialogue,
He
right?
has no dialogue whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, other than a few roars or
Grunts.
something.
Yeah, right.
And so you're feeling some sort of I mean, you watch this movie, you're feeling some sort of empathy for that creature.
Yeah.
You know, and you're feeling like this whole, I don't know. Yeah, it is that. I think that it is that anti-hero, that underdog that is a part of the American psyche at that time.
For sure. And I think also, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like teenagers especially loved this movie, right? Like it really hit hard with
sure.
teenagers, and then they
Sure.
started making a lot
Because
of movies.
they're the outcasts.
Yeah,
right?
and they
They're
started
the
making them
creatures.
Yeah.
directly for the teenagers.
Yeah.
I was a teenage vampire, all that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
Yeah, it started to that was a huge connection, I think, of you know, being a teenage boy that doesn't fit in, you know, and you see this monster on screen, and he just wants to meet this girl. He wants to go out with this girl. Like the creature wants to go out with the girl, you know, and he's trying every way he can, and he's got all the people against him.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
And so you, as a teenager,
Yep.
you're looking at him, you're like, "That's me,
Man,
The
totally.
creature
Yeah.
is me."
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's I think that hasn't changed through the decades.
No
you know?
way.
We
No
keep
way.
you know, that's part of being a teenager, right?
Yeah.
Is just feeling like an outcast, feeling like an underdog.
Yeah.
And then that's why, again, you know, all the big horror movies, even right now too, like, you know, It is making a huge comeback.
Yes.
And all of these you know, huge horror movies right now, the teenagers are the ones that are, you know, really hooking on to
Really.
it.
Yep.
Because they're just like, yes, I can use this as a symbol for my identity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Teenagers are full of angst too,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the nice thing. Horror
It's
movies
not,
definitely
it's not like we
a place
were all
to
doing it
puke it all.
consciously either at that
Oh,
time.
yeah, no
you know,
way.
we were just
Yeah,
like, but it was
even
that
now,
subconscious influence
Sure.
where you're
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you empathize.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember being 12 and falling in love with bands like Fear and Black Flag and all these punk rock bands. I didn't know why.
Yeah.
But it's later when you have words, right?
Yeah.
When you develop a vocabulary and
Yeah, 'cause
you
we
get
were
your brain
just-
straight. But back then it was like, it's Ram Raging,
Yep.
you know?
We could all we were just grunting and roaring just like the creature from the Black
Yeah.
Lagoon, you know.
Yeah.
We
Good
didn't know how to
analogy.
say
Yeah,
anything.
good analysis.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even now too, watching it now, you still feel a lot of empathy for him, and you still feel like, well, he's not all bad. I mean, he just scraped up that one guy's face, and now he's got to wear masking tape. But
Yeah.
but you know, he didn't kill her.
No.
Right. Or all the guys that he grabs onto and just pulls them off of the side of the boat. That stunt work was great, man.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay. And he did that with the chick too, right? He's just
Yeah.
like, we're going overboard.
Yeah, but he was kind of a jerk to put that tree in front of their boat. Though,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that wasn't very nice. But
Hey, it was Beauty and the Beast. What
Yeah,
was I saying?
yeah, he needed beauty. He
Yeah.
needed to keep her there.
he was going to do anything he could.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys have any favorite parts that jump out to you from this movie? Marek first.
Oh wow! Really, there's so many because I haven't seen it probably. I mean, until we saw it a couple nights ago, I haven't seen it. I got to think about this. Maybe 40 years.
Wow.
Woo!
And
Yeah.
so, for me, kind of revisiting that, and even, you know, farther back when I was like 8 or 9 or 7, and to see it and see what scared me then see what
Yeah.
actually terrified me
Yeah.
at the time. You know, it's not terrifying anymore. You know, it's like it's like going back and watching Willard. You know, I
Right.
mean, when I
Sure.
first watched Willard, and I must have been like in my 20s, I was like, oh my god, you know, this is horrific.
Yeah.
And to watch it now, it's almost comical.
Yeah.
But the things that surprised me were the cinematography. I mean, just the clarity, the black and white
Yeah.
is so stunning
Yeah.
on it. My second favorite part was the part that actually did terrify me when I was younger, and that was the breathing, which I spoke about it earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, I had nightmares of just that mouth kind of gaping and kind of, you know, and it was just, you know, it was too much for me, I think, because you almost felt like you couldn't breathe because
Sure.
this
Oh, right.
it's
yeah.
coming across
Yeah,
like this
yeah,
monster can't breathe.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because he's out on the land and he's like having a hard time. It's like you said, a fish out of water.
Yeah, right.
But that sense of almost suffocating, you know, and you put that into horror too, then you've got suffocating horror.
Yeah.
It's really an awesome combination. But seeing that now, just how well they did that, it just kind of surprised me that really and it wasn't a special effect. That was just acting and manipulating the suit.
Yeah.
But the way that was done was freaking brilliant.
Well, it's like that's what we always talk about. Just of there's just something about the real thing that's in the camera as opposed to CG.
absolutely.
You know, that's just
Man,
you just can't beat it. You know,
No.
it's really happening. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that was my two favorite. I think is just the clarity of the film.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that it had been done originally in 3D.
Yeah, that was.
I know. We
interesting, too.
we didn't either. Yeah.
I mean, that was new to me. When I saw it
Sure.
in the theater, it was not.
Yeah, just
3D.
regular. Yep.
And so that was a surprise. And
In 3, you also liked Julia Adams. Cone.
pointy.
Pointy,
yes.
It's like
Her Madonna.
her Madonna-
Madonna
Madonna
bra.
outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that was memorable when I was that age, but not that. I guess I forgot about that. So, I was more interested in the creature at the time,
Yeah.
you know, and so it was, and really, like you said too, I think the suit
just amazing.
Yeah.
When we were talking about watching it, I thought, you know, it's going back. You go back home, it's never the same. You know, it doesn't look
Yeah,
the same.
sure.
And I was really impressed that you know that suit would work well today, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
It would really.
Yeah, it was funny. I was thinking too, because I hadn't seen it for years either, and I thought, well, this, you know, it's going to be fun in a cheesy kind of way,
Right.
and maybe we can like Mystery Science Theater it while we're watching it.
Right.
But we quickly all three of us just kind of shut up and started watching it
we
because
went right
we were just
into
like,
it. Yeah.
whoa, we're getting into this. This is actually a really good movie.
Yeah.
you know?
It's a story that draws you. I mean, the story draws you in, and that's something that I think the writers at that time. I mean, these guys were churning out scripts right and left, and so they were polished.
Yeah.
You know, so they kind of had it down, but it was a good story. Yeah, it was a really good story.
What about you, Dr. K? What jumps out to you? Your favorite part?
It's so like what I think it's what a lot of people say, but that the underwater shots of the girl and the monster swimming in mirror image of each other.
Which
It's just
represented
awesome.
sexual
Just
intercourse.
oh yes, right, because it was a
Of
sperm
course,
and an egg
I
in the
mean, it
uterus.
was so blatantly obvious to everyone.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
We're digging on that.
But
that
it
mechanic.
was a guy in a rubber suit swimming without any tanks or anything on,
Yeah.
and
Upside
so,
down.
I mean, that's fantastic.
That's
Swimming upside down, and that was choreographed and all of that.
Yeah. Pretty
I mean,
awesome.
it's pretty fantastic. But the just the visual of that, I always think is just so ethereal, and it's kind of surreal. You know, it's like almost you're
didn't that
moving
also-
into a Salvador Dali painting or something when you see
Yeah,
that.
didn't that also play on that whole scene there of the creature kind of mirroring her
Yeah,
and being directly underneath her in the underwater shots?
Yeah.
Was it you that was talking earlier about the fact that kind of tagged a fear too? That when you're swimming,
whole the jaws, the whole
yeah, when you're swimming,
right,
yeah,
right. I think that was Peter said.
yeah.
I think you said that. Yeah,
If I remember it, because it was kind of just like it played on that fear of when you're swimming in a dark, murky lake, you know, or the ocean. You know, you have almost that fear of like, what if there was something swimming directly underneath me?
Yeah,
And I can't
almost,
see it.
almost touching
shark
me,
or anything, or fucking alligator. Yeah.
and it really plays on that. Yeah.
It really does, because we see how he keeps reaching up to, like, you know, he can touch her, but he doesn't touch her.
Yeah.
Right, and that part, that's like really creepy.
Yes.
Especially with her feet, like when he just almost touches her feet, and then she's like, "Hey, what's going on down there?"
It's also sentimental. He's like some adolescent asking a girl out for the first time.
Oh yeah, oh definitely.
Reaching and then pulling back, and reaching a little further and
can't
pulling
do it.
back.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't have the guts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let me kill some poor,
Right,
supporting actor. That's
right.
not a problem.
No problem
Right.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best part, for sure.
Yep. Yeah. what I also thought of one of my favorite scenes was with that captain of the boat.
Oh, he's awesome.
Oh, yes.
You know, where he you know, the two scientists are fighting.
Yeah.
And the one scientist is like, well, no, you know, I'm saying we stay here and we kill that creature. And then the other scientist is like, we have to get out of here. You know, the creature's going to kill all of us. And then the captain is like, yeah, let's go. And then the other guy just stands up to him and he's like, I'm in charge of this expedition. And then he just pulls the knife out underneath his chin. He's just smiling.
He's just smiling the whole time.
He's just smiling the whole time. He's like, do you have anything else to say, senor? No?
I am the
Okay.
captain.
I am the captain. So I say we shall go.
Yeah.
You're like, man, that was awesome.
It was great. Such a power play,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That was an awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great
It's
little scene.
Yep. You don't say nothing to the captain.
And another thing that jumped out to us too, I think, was just the idea that, you know, this is another one of those movies where it's pretty much all one location the whole time.
Yeah,
You're
right.
just on the boat. You're in the water
Right.
or you're in the boat. And there's something kind of magical about that. It's not cutting away to the lab over here where this guy's doing that, or the president of the United States saying that. You know, it has a sense of being a big movie, but it's not really exploring the world around it. It's just all happening there, you know.
That's I never thought about that. That's really interesting because I think in most cases you tend to get bored from it being in just this one location.
If you don't do it right, yeah.
But the location that they picked was so epic
Yeah.
and so mysterious, and they spoke about that in the commentary
Yeah.
afterwards, that it was tucked way back there in the swamps in Florida or something, and you know, and it was this Black Lagoon that was on this land that the one person owned or something like that, and brought him back there.
Yeah.
But it was mysterious enough,
Yeah.
and that you didn't need to go any further.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we finally see his lair too.
Oh,
That's a
that's
really
great.
great way to culminate it,
Yeah.
right? You know, because we see him down underneath the whole time, but then once it's like, oh man, he's got his own little,
He's got his
own lair.
his amphibian cave.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
It's man cave.
Yep. It kind of falls apart a little bit where at the end where she, you know, they swim underneath and they get into the lair, and then 2 seconds later everybody else from the boat just kind of runs around the corner like an episode of Star Trek or something.
Yes.
They're just all waiting outside.
Yeah.
Oh well, we can just go in this
go
way.
around that way.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we didn't see this cave entrance on land.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, we didn't need to do all that stuff of dropping all those Alka-Seltzers in the
Yeah.
water and swimming in the middle of the night to try to catch him. We could have just walked into his
Yes.
cave. you
Yeah,
know,
it's
but
12 feet away.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, we forgive them for that. But yeah, just really, it's one of those movies I think we can all three of us can wholeheartedly recommend.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely,
without a doubt.
definitely worth the watch. I mean, it's-
And to our viewers, if you haven't watched it, there's something wrong with you. But besides that, it's the first of a trilogy, right? There were three
yes.
creature movies, and this is the first.
Now I'm gonna have to watch all three. I mean, all the other two now again.
Yeah.
Because I remember the second one, but I don't remember the third one. So now I've got the
You've got the set.
DVD set, so I'm gonna have to go watch the next two.
Yep.
Yep.
And then you should come back and tell us.
Maybe.
Yeah. What was your, what's the best of the three?
Yeah, I still get a bag of potato chips out of this, so it's like.
Yeah, that's right.
Probably.
All right.
We still have to talk about
I
it.
think I've opened it and eaten some, but
yeah.
It's okay as long as there's sour cream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is off-brand okay? Because our budget is kind
Off-brand
of
is
low right
even
now.
better.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like-
Good.
seriously, I mean, watching horror movies and eating off-brand chips, it doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
good. We're doing it right then. We're
Yeah.
doing it right.
Yep. Anything else we want to say here? I know we're kind of in a little lull here right now because we have turned off the fans here. And
And we're starting to
boil
melt.
a
Yeah.
little bit.
Sorry, people, for that first 3 minutes where you're going to be like, hey, what the hell is all of that horrible sound back there? And then it's like, oh, it got good. That was the fan. But yeah, we're starting to dissolve into our seats.
Yeah.
I'm sitting comfortably numb. So.
Okay.
Oh,
that's
good.
that's
Good.
Well, then we can tangent now.
We
I
can.
think, right? Let's go tangentially.
Yes.
Now that we have you
Into
here,
the universe of film. Here we go.
Yeah, we want to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Tell us more about Hell Comes to Frogtown.
No, that seriously is one of the best movies ever produced.
Yes.
It's like Rowdy Rodney
Yeah.
Piper,
Yes.
brilliant in that
Yes.
film.
Yep.
See,
Yep.
The acting,
yeah,
the costuming, the score, the story, it all comes together
it's beautiful.
in an epic crescendo of pure, unadulterated cheese of the best kind.
Yes.
It is the
Well put.
deep dish pizza with extra cheese.
Ah.
That's what we like.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
From New York.
Yep.
Ah, yes.
That makes it delicious.
Yes.
Seriously. That Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Yeah.
Viewers out there, if
Pure
you
fun.
You've got to check it out.
if you ever go on a pilgrimage of any kind, forget the Holy Land, forget the Vatican. Forget Tibet.
Yeah.
Go to Frogtown.
Seriously,
Yep.
forget
Go
the
to
Dalai
Frogtown.
Lama. Watch Hell Comes to Frogtown. Yeah.
Oh, that will solve all of your spiritual problems. right
Seriously,
there.
if more people watched Hell Comes to Frogtown,
Yeah.
Yep.
the world would be so much better right
It
now.
really would. It
That's
really
good. That's good. That's generally how I feel about the first Toxic Avenger. But
would. Yes.
Toxic Avenger, you know, it's up there, but we're
it's-
talking
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
something that is transcendent.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's another level. Yes.
Right.
It is another level.
It's
Yeah.
not just a movie.
Right.
It's not just a movie.
it's a way of being.
Right. No,
I think that was on the posters too. It's not just a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Yeah.
If you ever do Hell Comes to Frogtown,
Yep.
I'd
You'll
be
be
here
here.
without chips.
All right. Fine. Fine.
Yeah.
We probably will eventually get to that.
We probably will. Yes.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Yeah. That's that is what has been one of your greatest powers. That you have passed on to me a little bit is just that love of obscure, cheesy,
Yeah.
great.
You know,
movies.
let's talk about that because I think we've had endless discussions, not on camera, on
Off camera, off
on
mic.
tape
Yeah.
about this,
Yeah.
but the three of us have talked ad nauseum otherwise about like why is what is generally considered by everybody to be the dregs, the crappy junk, sometimes is fantastic storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Because we were kind of getting at the opposite of that earlier in this discussion. Like, why is what's changed with good storytelling? But let's talk about like when all of the mishaps, but that are actually good, i.e.,
Yeah.
the B movies, the C movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Action. Because I think there's a whole lot of dialogue here between us about like sword and sandal and fantasy and sci-fi
Yep.
and horror a little bit, but especially between me and you,
Yeah.
Pete. But like all that stuff. Hell Goes to Frogtown, Killer Tomatoes, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which may be a little bit better, but Toxic Avenger,
Buckaroo Banzai.
Buckaroo Banzai,
Buckaroo
Across the
Banzai.
Fifth
Yeah,
Dimension.
we're talking-
Yep.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to
yeah,
eat my words because
Yeah.
I kind of downplayed the movies from the '80s, but there's so many. Yeah.
yeah, I think.
I mean, not on that.
All of those
Not
are
on that
huge
caliber. I mean, we're talking about when we go back to the Creature of the Black from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
You're talking about movies that were really produced in a Hollywood golden era. Now you're talking
Yeah,
about a
sure.
different
Right.
different
right,
generation.
right.
where and that is
Hollywood of the 80s was like New York City of the 80s.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
like this horrible war
Yes.
zone
Yeah, it
that
is.
no one wanted to go to.
Yeah, you get
Everything
the
is
Hammer
covered in
films. You
grease
got
and there's
everything
rats
like
running
that.
around.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think
Right,
to
yeah.
pay the compliment back. I mean, you actually sharpened me because of your inquiring mind when you were growing up. That I had to
listen
kind
to
of go,
this.
okay, let's check this out. Okay, let's
Yep.
check this out. You know what I mean? And so I think you opened or broadened my horizons. But we're both unashamedly that fantasy, horror, sci-fi, and B movie.
Yeah.
Aficionados and really passionate about.
Yeah.
And
And
so-
and I would say that what's interesting is that it's a special kind of love for movies.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of
So
people get it,
true.
and then there's a lot of people that don't get it. You know?
Totally.
Yeah.
And so I guess what we're trying to do right now is try to explain to people why we love those
Yeah.
movies so much.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
what makes because there are bad movies
Yeah.
that are bad.
Yeah.
and,
Sure.
and we're talking about in this and really I use fantasy as all encompassing because I think sci-fi is a subgenre, horror is a subgenre
Okay, sure.
of fantasy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because it is all fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then you've got this, you've got the other genres, subgenres within each of those, like science fiction and going down. So to get kind of our language straight here,
Right.
but what is it that makes a bad movie there are tons of bad movies.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about
No
the
Come on,
late
Barbarella?
70s, 80s,
Yeah.
and 90s.
Yeah.
Barbarella.
Oh, it's
Man.
fun though.
It's
is.
super fun. That's
That
right.
just
Yeah.
is fun.
Yeah.
But what makes a B movie, you know, any of these B movies, what makes them really truly bad?
Yeah.
But what makes the bad ones good?
Yeah, that's the magic, right?
Yeah,
and is
right.
it just? I mean, is it?
What is that ingredient? What is
Because
that
I think
special
a
sauce?
huge part of it is when you see it, right?
Yeah.
It's when you see it,
Right.
Yeah.
right? Like, how old are you? What time of day was it? Was it in the middle of the night? Because I think there were
Maybe.
the ones I'm more nostalgic for the ones that I saw when I was younger,
Right.
and probably not as much now for saying new bad movies.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's a 13-year-old doppelganger of me who right now is seeing those and is like, oh yeah, that shit's great, man.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of like, bah, whatever.
when you-
I want to know the bad movies from when it was my time, kind of thing, right?
But when you return,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
let's return to Hell Comes to Frogtown. I mean,
Sure.
it's generationally, you know, it crosses generational lines.
No
You know,
one can deny it.
Yeah, I mean, when you watched it and I watched it, we were
Yeah.
both like, oh,
Yeah.
you know,
It's so good.
this is so good.
Mhm.
And so what makes those B movies? Because there are these classic
Yeah.
B movies out there, and I'm
Yeah.
talking about all of those people. And in horror, I would
No, there's
I would expect in horror
gazillion of
movies.
them.
Yeah. But in horror movies, I would expect knowing something about demographics that at least 70% of the people that are, you know, in love with horror movies are also in love with fantasy and sci-fi. And
Oh, sure.
everything like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
So,
because
to
drama
varying or
sucks,
lesser-
man.
yeah,
Who
to
wants to
varying
watch
or
that
less-
crap?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Comedies, give me a break.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but what is the special sauce in these movies that make them bad? I
Yeah.
mean, you just have so many. You've got Sword and the all of you
Yeah.
people out
Go.
there that are in the
Go,
know.
go.
Sword and the Sorcerer. You've got what's the one with David Carradine?
That's-
The Sorcerer and the Sorceress. I think it is.
That's the one I'm gaping on.
Or no, the Warrior and the Sorceress.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
you're right.
I think
That's
that's
it.
it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
David Carradine.
Yep.
though.
Yep. Oh,
That's
that
like-
one is.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's
Yeah.
like that's brilliant. But you have
It
also
is.
a David Carradine that came out of Kung Fu that everybody was in love with.
Yeah.
You know, and then
To
you
get
got,
stung by a scorpion lady with 6 boobies.
Oh
Yes.
man,
That's so good.
it does not get any better than that. I mean,
Really?
Would you consider?
I think it was no. But going back to that though, I think it was Tolkien that said that he was criticized because people were viewing his literature as escapism,
Oh, yeah.
and he said
okay.
escapism is only. You know, people trying to escape is only criticized by prison guards.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Nice
so
quote.
I think,
Right.
yeah,
Oh,
going
that's
back to
brilliant.
that, this is escapism, but it's
That's-
at
yeah,
its
yeah,
it's
yeah,
at its
yeah.
best.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
Well, and that's this is the tricky thing now because I think a lot of that stuff it does kind of hit you on some other level though too. You know where
Yeah.
A
You
visceral level.
yeah, and even like
6 boobies in a scorpion woman.
yeah,
that
that hits
does-
you in another.
It really
area.
gets you in the gut.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
it's
Or even
both-
lower than the gut.
It's both kind of but I mean it's both horrifying and,
Yeah.
and appealing at
Yeah.
the same time. It's
Right.
like, yeah,
Yeah, I know. Well, but this is the thing though is so we were just extolling the virtues of pulp fiction,
Yeah.
where its story is it, and that's all it is. But on the same hand, like They Live came to mind, I guess, because we were talking about
Oh.
Roddy Piper,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And They Live
he
probably
should have gotten an Academy Award.
yeah,
for
but
They Live,
at the time though, right? It was
Right.
it was probably a B movie, right? Wouldn't you
Oh,
say?
wow.
It was, yeah,
John
definitely was a
Carpenter
B
said it
movie.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was like-
his independent film.
It was
that
independent,
no one
you know,
cared about.
yeah,
Yeah.
and nobody went to see it and all
Yep.
this. And now, over time, it's really a classic.
Right.
It's like it's
Right.
legit. I mean, people that don't even know the movie
No,
can recognize images from
exactly.
it.
They'll
right?
know the references.
Yeah.
To it. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And so, what is it about They Live that transcended? And I think just I mean, it's pretty obvious now, I guess, but it was really talking about this kind of whole thing of the division between the rich and the poor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would say They Live is a really prime example when we got into the 80s then, where movies did take more of a statement, more of a political statement, more of a environmental statement, more of a drawing these parallels to.
Yeah. Right.
Sure.
I mean, you explained to me, I think some years ago, a great one about the whole sunglass thing.
Yeah.
When
yeah.
Roddy Piper gets in the fight, you
Yeah.
know, because he's trying to get the other guy to wear the sunglasses,
which is one of the greatest scenes
It's
ever.
you know,
It's a 10-minute
everything.
wrestling
Yeah.
match.
Really.
In the middle
and
of the
even
movie.
South Park agrees with it
Yeah.
because yeah.
But I mean, the fact that
Yeah.
that he had to put on these sunglasses to be able to see.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
where
yeah.
did he find the glasses?
That's right.
Oh,
in the trash.
yeah.
In the church.
In the church.
Oh, in the church. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and so it's like you were
Yep.
connecting the dots
Yep.
on that
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, and that's I was like, whoa, that is I never thought about that.
Right.
And so, but just brilliant story, brilliant movie. But following this train though, is what makes these good. It's story. It's back to what you were saying, Dr.
Yeah.
K.
Yeah.
You know, earlier.
Oh,
is
without a
that,
doubt. No one cares. If the story isn't good, it's
Yeah.
Right.
too hard to care.
Well, and that's the cool thing about something like They Live is you can enjoy it on any level you want, right?
Yeah.
You can,
Right.
Oh,
you can
absolutely.
enjoy it just purely for what it is, where
Yeah.
it's just
Yep.
the
Yep.
rich people are all aliens and
Yep.
they're trying to kill everybody else and
Yep.
they're trying to control everyone,
was
and that's
this-
it. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, do you think this was kind of this planting of the seeds of the Illuminati and the elite kind of ruling in this reptilian race and all this stuff?
Well, V was before.
Yes.
V predates They Live.
Oh,
by a
you're
few
right.
years,
So
2,
it's
3,
kind of
4
following
years.
this whole
Yeah.
So V definitely
Yeah.
train
with
of
the
thought.
reptilians.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But sure, let me bounce this off you guys. I think part of what we're getting at, which is this conversation is making evident to me, or at least how I think of it, is that the movies that we're talking about are all I don't want to use the word cult, but are like the reason why people don't want to listen to Fleetwood Mac and they do want to listen to the punk rock band that nobody listens to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like, hey, here's what this is all mainstreamed, and this is all what's going on. So Pretty in Pink is a great movie,
right.
and I'm trying to think of like Goonies is a great movie.
Yeah.
Right? These are great movies. Gremlins is a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
These are all great, big, epic 80s movies.
Mainstream.
But there are people who don't want that. There are people who don't want Black Flag. They don't want Fleetwood Mac. They don't want the Boss, right? They don't want Sting. They want the Black Flags and the Adolescents, and they want the bands that nobody else is listening to because maybe they can relate to that on a more like
So they're
divisionalist
Right.
reason.
So they're
but
consciously
but now think about film that way, right?
right.
So Toxic Avenger, I'm just going to stick with that because I was talking about it before. Toxic Avenger is so like no budget. It's so grimy. It's so dirty. But it so isn't mainstream Hollywood filmmaking.
Yeah.
That there's something that maybe that's what we're falling in love with.
Right.
Yeah.
With a lot of these like B movies that we're talking about is because it isn't. They aren't the kind of the
So it's
They're
kind of a
not-
rebellion
they're not
against the
artificial.
status quo.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
rebelling against the status quo.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
in a way by just being they're kind it's
Different.
like they're more urchiny. They're like the
Yeah.
Well, their Toxic Avenger is, you get the sense. I mean, he's not trying to tell some personal epic story.
no,
but at the same hand,
but
they love the material of what they're doing.
Exactly.
And they're not. It's
Right.
not purely like let's
Right.
try to make as much money as we can.
Right.
Which Hollywood is guilty of all the
absolutely.
time. Right.
So why was Leastman and Laird's Ninja Turtles so popular before it blew up?
Yeah.
Right? Because it wasn't Spider-Man, because it wasn't Batman, because it was there's that kind of like indie.
It was driven by
thing.
creators that
Yeah.
made it, and it wasn't like a committee that was deciding what's going to be popular this
Right.
month and all that
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think everybody can agree Hollywood
Yeah.
in those regards. Is
Oh
taking
my
them,
goodness,
you know.
right? Oh,
It's
sheesh.
real estate.
It's real
It
estate,
is.
and it's
It is.
and it's mass production.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
It's an assembly
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
You know, and it's I don't know how many times I've heard, from a handful of the people that I've known that have worked in the industry saying that, or had contact with it, that have said that over and over again. The thing is Hollywood's number one rule is if something works, more of that
Yeah.
same
Yeah,
type of
absolutely.
thing
You're absolutely
will work even better.
That's right.
And so you just get flooded. I mean,
Yep.
during the
Yep.
70s and 80s on TV, it was nothing but detective shows or
Sure.
sitcoms. That
Yeah.
was
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so
Barney
Kojak.
Miller, Cannon,
Yeah.
Quincy
Oh,
MD, Trapper John MD.
yeah, you just go on and on. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. But what's interesting though then is so this era that we live in right now, the YouTube era. right?
Yeah.
Isn't
Yep.
it funny though that we have the same kind of thing going on, which we've always had in film of of the huge behemoth of Hollywood making artificial crap, and then the independent people just really trying to get their vision onto film, right? But what's the most popular thing right now?
Right.
Is people playing video games on YouTube. There's no, like when when Francis Ford Coppola was talking about YouTube in Apocalypse Now, remember? There's that famous little clip of him talking about like in the future everyone's going to have access to cameras and they're going to be able to make there's going to be a 13-year-old that will make a movie that anyone in the world can see. He predicted YouTube, right?
He really did. Yeah.
But the problem is I think his vision of what that was like all these great independent filmmakers. Right. But we're not having great independent filmmakers. We're just having people that have a microphone and then they're just making stupid comments while they're playing a video game, and they're getting 60 million views. And it's just I don't. Why don't we have like an?
But we're talking about
thing,
being a gamer too. You're talking about something I think in it's a little bit different in the sense I don't watch those videos except for late night a lot of times, but don't tell your mom,
right?
But you'll jump on and watch something if you like. I play Lord of the Rings online. I've been doing it for like 11 12 years, but
and his name is MARECH on there.
It is MARECH on there. But if you but when they come out with a new update or anything like that, I'll jump on and watch something to see what these guys that know more than I do are doing. Sure. And so it's helpful, but you're right. There are a lot of people that will sit and watch this, thing for like 2 hours.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one example of just the garbage. What that comment made me think of was it's like for all of the cool things that YouTube brings us, it reinforces that millions of people want shitty TV too, right? Yeah, because I mean, even what you're talking about isn't nearly as nefarious or bad as people who have spent the last 10 years or 12 years since YouTube's been around imitating. So they aren't the real jackass. There are people imitating jackass who want notoriety for slapping each other in the balls. That's it. And it's like, what? These people are going to, some of them are adults, but 20 years from now, that's when I want to talk to them and be like, do you realize that you are world renowned for doing the stupidest shit that humans are capable of doing, right? But what does that say about their 20 million views?
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, YouTube and social media in some regards are the great democracy where everybody casts
it really
this
is.
vote.
Yeah.
So you're seeing these votes being cast. But I also think I think the problem of this is you've got these people nowadays that have navigated this and made it become very savvy at marketing and promotion and PR. And that's what's lacking.
And that's
I'm not going to say I'm going to differ because I'm more optimistic, I think, than you guys in this regards. But but I choose to believe that the reason people are watching that crap because they don't know about so much of the good stuff that's out there.
Oh, for sure.
And the thing is 13-year-olds. Sorry, all of our 13-year-old fans, because I know we have some good ones out there. But 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-olds constitute a huge percentage.
Yes.
Right.
A huge chunk of the people who watch.
Right.
And those people, unfortunately, don't have the wherewithal or the guidance to know that it's garbage and they can fall into garbage holes. But but we know about it because we've seen it too, right? So it's not,
and I remember
we don't get out of it, but there's
you're right. And I remember
demographically it all lays out in some way. That
I remember my parents
know.
saying, "Don't read those comic books; they're gonna
sure. And those were good, right?
Those were good. Right?
Yeah. Look what happened to Pete here. Oh man,
I know, really, that's true.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying though is, and maybe there's some huge part of YouTube I don't know about where there are people making movies, just like
yes, there is. I know.
Sure,
I
there's
know
got to
too,
be. There has to be. Yeah.
But good.
We find them every
movies.
once in a while. We'll find a little short.
I'm gonna do a shout out for a movie, but Kate Madison, who I know somewhat, is a producer and actor from London, and she's done a Tolkien knockoff, Born of Hope. It's on YouTube. I think it's got like 63 million views or something like that.
Yep.
And then she's done another series called Ren, the Girl in the Mask. That's kind of a fantasy, and I think I checked the other night. She's got like 2-3 million views on that. So there is this good stuff out there.
Sure.
And she's kind of I think learned how to navigate some of this promoting and marketing, and I think and you run into this, I think, with all artists to a degree, is that they hate in essence this kind of feeling of self-promotion.
Yes.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Where you're
Without a
seeing
doubt.
these guys,
Without a doubt.
a lot of these idiots, and they are idiots out on YouTube,
But they're super
that
good.
are like knocking
Super
each other
good
in the
at that.
balls and whatnot,
Yeah,
but they're very blatant, and
That's right.
they're no apology for their promoting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For
you know?
sure.
And
For
so
sure.
it's so I think that's the distinction,
Yep.
is that
No,
you're talking about
yep.
what's not art,
Yeah.
and so they make up for it in bravado, where
right.
you've got the artists that are producing really good content that are just doing a shitty job on promoting.
Yeah.
And so
Well
I do choose to believe that people will become more savvy and collaborate on a lot of this, and you'll see.
Do you think too that the people who instead of there being like really good made for YouTube film,
Right.
those people who would do that are making just like one or two things to use in their resume to actually get into Hollywood and
true.
TV, Hollywood and or TV?
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's I've thought of that before too. It's just that it's a springboard now for people, but they don't like.
Yeah.
There aren't serious filmmakers just staying on YouTube
To make
because I mean,
independent release,
especially since that kind of the bubble burst on everybody getting paid. It's not like it was even 5 years ago when everybody was getting paid. Now it's like if you're not getting millions of views, you ain't getting paid for nothing.
for sure.
Now, if you are getting millions of views, sure, then
Who was
Chevy
it that-
pays for it.
But who was it that was going to produce a movie specifically for YouTube? Was it?
Yeah, I remember hearing something about that too. Was it like Ridley Scott or something like that?
I forget, but they were. Yeah, I hadn't heard much about that since. But I think it was like a couple of years ago. There was some brouhaha about producing a movie
YouTube
specifically
specific
for YouTube.
programming. I bet Netflix was like, no, come work here, dummy.
Right. But yeah, that's probably. But I mean, you see
That's
a lot
a
of
good
these
point,
a lot of these platforms like YouTube and even Facebook. It's like the Wild West right now.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
For sure.
But it's also in that content.
Yep.
Kind of blender. It is the. We'll go back to that analogy or that what's the word I'm looking for? Same thing as metaphor of the Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah.
It is that Pulp Fiction stage where you have everyone just kind of thrown in with the piranhas.
Just
and
go.
Whoever emerges
Just go.
from here.
Yeah. I'd say we're even getting to stage 2. You know, there were channels like Epic Rap Battles that for like 10 years, I mean, they ruled YouTube. And they're gone. That's one. But there are a handful of the guys that got in right at the beginning. 12 years ago, whenever YouTube became a real thing, right?
Well,
and
even
some
like
of those are already gone now, and so now we're seeing kind of like this next generation of.
But you saw
the
that.
big channels.
You see that all the time. I mean, you're more familiar, Dr. K, with the music industry, but you see that all the time with groups too.
Without a doubt, yeah.
There's going to be these one-hit wonders or these people that are a flash in the pan, and then you've got these people that have honed their skills. And what's the difference between I think those people is that. And you said something to me a few years back when you graduated from college at, can I say, where? At Savannah College of Art and Design. And one of the professors, and I've remembered this ever since, but you said one of your professors said, don't draw what you think people will like, draw what you like.
Yeah.
Draw what you love.
Yeah.
And people will like it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's the difference. What you're seeing is a lot of this content. And you can apply this to movies, to literature, to music, right on down the road.
Right on it.
Is that, if people are trying to produce something what they think people will like, they're going to be those one-hit wonders, or they're going to be that flash in the pan. They're going to be gone in 2 weeks or 5 years, and that's it.
You're so.
But those people that remain timeless are people that are producing what they love.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so true. Well said. Yeah, I think because you can smell the artificiality coming off of some of these things from a mile away.
Yeah, the posture. The posture.
Yeah.
Pure posture. Yeah.
You know when somebody's doing it because they love it, rather than somebody's doing it because they're like, I hope you're going to love this so I can get money.
Your art smells like Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Right.
And now
Plastic.
I will perform.
Oh wait, Toys R Us is gone. Yeah.
And now I will perform a great feat of magic here and bring it full circle.
Yes.
To going back to the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yes. Right.
Because you had studio artists, writers, and everything that had honed their skills and were in the process of honing their skills, because they were passionate about it.
Yeah.
Oh man,
And that's
that,
what
the
makes this
documentary.
stand
That
out.
was the best part about the documentary, right?
Right.
The people they had, the actress and the
Yep.
guy who played, they were like stoked on what they were doing.
Right.
Then
They loved it.
They were like super like.
They
this,
loved
it.
it.
was great. We did this. We
Yep.
did that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It
And
wasn't like,
so-
oh, it was a grind. I just did it for a paycheck. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So just think about
yeah.
that, kids. Don't do what you think is going to sell. Do what
Right.
you love.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, because I think we as viewers we feed into that feeling. You know, we love to we love to see somebody doing something that they love. That feeling transfers to us. I think,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
absolutely. I know I'm the only one in this room that will advocate for this, but that's why people like sports so much. Because professional sports, you're seeing. So I'll talk about baseball here because I'm a fanatic, but you're seeing the best in the world doing what they absolutely love
Yep.
and have spent their entire
Yeah,
lives to get there to do, and they're doing it better than anybody else. But besides the fact that they're really good at it, they're just it's about the love of what
love
they're
it.
doing.
Yeah.
The love about what they're doing, and I think that's probably all sports, right? That's why anybody would dedicate their lives to doing something like that. But that's why when you get to watch it, because it's real.
Yep.
It's not, except for a handful of things, it's not staged, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's like, here's the rules, and go, and then we'll watch that unfold,
Yep.
and we'll get to actually see you working your craft kind of
Yep,
thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that as an aside. Yeah.
Totally. But I would still watch Deathstalker Part 2
Yes.
rather than watch a baseball game.
I know you would. Yes.
It's like
But everybody can like what they want. You know?
That's
Yes.
right.
That's
we're
what
allowed
makes the
to
world
know
go around
for
yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's all I can say is thanks for having me. This
Yeah.
has been
Dude.
just a fun conversation.
So
sure.
stoked.
A walk down memory lane.
So
and
stoked.
It's great. It's
Like I
great.
said earlier in
I'm
this
proud
podcast.
of both of you guys for kind of carrying this torch.
Yes.
Well, you know,
It's fun.
we mention you a lot too. Actually.
We do.
So if
we
you
really
go
do.
back
Thank
through
you.
some of our
Most of it
catalog,
isn't,
Well, it's
pure
just-
trashing you or
yeah,
anything.
It's
Right.
just really, semi-emotional that, this torch has been passed now in good hands, and I feel like I can relax and watch more movies with six boobied lesbian women.
Yes. In fact, let's
And,
watch one right now. I think.
Let's.
Yes.
Let's do it.
I thought you were gonna bring up Bahubali, but yeah,
Oh,
right.
Bahubali. See,
I shouldn't have opened that wormhole.
we were all texting about
Now
this
we're into
last
an
night.
alternate. Now we're all into an alternate universe. Really,
Yes.
we've just gone to the next
I
dimension.
know,
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
This is a part of my. This is
Oh,
part
hey,
of my.
this just started at 1 minute. Okay,
Yeah.
we have another 75 minutes to go.
Yeah, no. I'm just like, now we've gone into an alternate universe,
Yeah.
and it's part of my evolution and spiritual growth.
Yeah.
Bahubali.
That's
I
right.
mean,
That's
seriously.
right. Watch
Have you,
part
did you
2
watch
first.
it?
Oh, well, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh man, what
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you think?
It's epic.
Oh,
It
It's,
is epic.
In every sense of the word.
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so good, and it's on my hard drive forever now.
Yeah.
I know. It's Bahubali. Seriously, I just-
Bahubali people,
it's
check
like-
that out.
all of a sudden, I mean, when I saw that movie, it
Yeah.
has been like I've dined on this great, American cuisine,
Yeah.
hamburgers,
Yeah.
apple pie,
Yeah.
you name it, and all of a sudden I've been introduced to Chinese food for the first time in my life, although it's a Hindi film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that sense of
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
discovery.
You're like, I can't believe how good this is, right?
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
What have I been
How
missing?
have I
my
not
whole-
known
They
how
have,
good this was? Yeah.
They have honed.
Oh man.
They have honed
Yeah.
the cheese, the
Yeah.
over the top,
yeah.
but they've done it so well.
Oh,
Something
yeah.
else.
It is so well professionally done. I have never seen. Actually, I would have to say I have never seen cheese done so well.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Right.
That is exactly it. It's
It is like the Gouda of.
It's grade A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. We mentioned it last episode.
We did.
Towards the end of
We
the
did.
episode.
We
Yep,
did.
yep.
Oh yeah.
This-
Yeah. We're trying to
the
force
The
this on our
conclusion,
poor listeners.
Bahubali, the conclusion, not the
Yeah.
beginning, the
Yeah.
conclusion.
Right.
So watch the
Right.
conclusion
It's-
first. and
Watch
then-
the
and then-
conclusion.
yeah.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. Yes. Watch the conclusion first.
Yeah, it's really like
The-
reading.
then the beginning.
Yeah, it's like really reading the Lord of the Rings first, and then going back and reading the
Yeah.
Hobbit.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
just
Right.
much more fun. Yeah.
Right.
For sure. But
Yeah.
I think we're also going to have to get you to in our notes, in our show notes.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to just list a few movies for people because
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
definitely.
Absolutely.
because you're constantly
picks.
doing this,
Yep.
and
Yep.
and you're just great at finding
Oh,
good
thank
good
you.
Heck yeah.
stuff. You know?
Heck
So-
yeah. It-
So I
that
can
is
bring up the
absolutely-
finished Hobbit.
Yes, please.
Ooh,
Okay.
And
what about the Russian
Hobbit?
Hobbit? Yeah.
That's off of YouTube now. They took
I
that
know.
down. They
Actually,
took
I
that
did
down.
know that. Yeah, I lost it
Yeah.
out of my freaking wish. My
Maybe
watch
there's
list,
somebody
yeah.
in Russia listening right now that can
Hopefully,
send
yeah.
it to us.
Yes.
Shout out to our friends in Russia.
Yep.
Yep.
Yuri, please send that
Yeah.
Russian Hobbit to us.
And stop
Please.
stealing the election, but
Yeah.
we'll forgive you for sending us the Russian
Exactly.
version of the
That's
Hobbit.
right.
You can have our democracy, but you can't have
But you
our.
You can't have our
the
Russian
Russian
Hobbit.
We need
Yeah.
your Russian Hobbit.
That's right. That's right.
I hope
Well,
you're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do hope to get you back though soon.
Yeah, anytime.
We do.
Thanks. This has been an honor. So
Yep.
It's been great. It's been great.
And thanks to our listeners for sitting here with us. It's been great. We love having you guys here. Yeah, man, we're right at it, guys. We're right at a perfect 80 minutes. So that'll be all for this week. Coming up soon. Keep in touch. We're gonna have more 5-minute top fives coming up for all you guys. We'll have more horror epic episodes in the very near future. None of which I'll tell you now because just pay attention.
Yeah. And also, we don't know really.
We
either.
don't. We don't know.
But we will know soon.
But we will know
Yeah.
here in a day or two.
We
yeah.
have we have like a short list. I
We
think.
do. We do have a good short list actually.
Yeah.
And so we'll be kicking some more down. But thanks again, everybody, on behalf of yours truly, Dr. K, and my wonderful co-host, the
Peter.
one and only Peter Venkman,
Thank you,
and
everybody.
our most esteemed special guest, father of Peter Venkman, Merc Venkman.
Or Dolphkin Dobbins.
Or
as
Dolphkin
he likes to be
Dobbins,
called.
AKA, yeah. That's only in Finland, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And on Wednesday nights too.
I've gone to Thursdays too.
Oh, okay. So keep everybody mark that down.
It's like the